Hi everyone. Back in December 2018, we at Farsight conducted a 5-year cryptocurrency forecast. We did a remote viewing study on that new currency before it became liquid and before ordinary people could invest in it. Our results were not very positive since they suggested that the currency, exactly as it was originally structured, would not survive. However, the currency itself was an interesting concept and it seemed to have an active community supporting it. Well, just about exactly when we forecasted a significant change in the currency was restructured such that its original structure no longer existed, and thus the original forecast was no longer valid. What remained was the same currency, but now restructured. We needed to do a second study on this currency to see what would happen to this newly restructured currency over a 5-year period. What you are watching now is the results of that second study on the newly restructured currency. We have done a great many studies on new cryptocurrencies that we hoped would survive and thrive in the future. And in general, we have found that most of them do not do well for the long run. For those currencies that do survive and thrive, the key seems to be that they satisfy a particular need that is well targeted. Our CICO-1 and CICO-2 currencies appear to be such currencies, and we have published forecasts and updates for those currencies. Well, the original forecast for this new currency that has recently gone through a restructuring now makes sense, at least to us. The original forecast now makes sense since the currency as it was originally structured did not survive, just as we forecast. But the restructured currency now seems much better placed to make an impact in the future of cryptocurrencies, and our new study seems to support this. We are now calling this newly restructured currency CICO-3. CICO stands for Contemporary Initial Coin Offerings, and the purpose of our CICO forecast is to attempt to use remote viewing in the context of our economic forecasting methods to determine the likelihood that a cryptocurrency will survive and thrive into the future. We are trying to focus on cryptocurrencies where their initial cost per coin is generally small and the potential for growth is significant. We offer our CICO forecast free to the public to watch as videos on YouTube, but the real name of the currency in the forecast has been changed so that the name referenced in the video is fictional. Potential investors can watch the forecast to see if they want to purchase the actual identity of the currency during the forecast period. And at the end of the 5-year forecast period, we will release the real names of the currency so that the general public can evaluate our results. In the past, we only sold the identities of the CICO forecast that had strong and positive results. But we have now moved to something that is more like a subscription model, where those people who purchase one of our CICO forecast identities also get a year of other CICO identities free of additional charge, starting from the date of the original purchase. This allows us to share our results that are not good, which theoretically allows people to dump currencies from their portfolios that look like they will not survive. But again, in our research, some currencies did come back with very strong and positive results. Our CICO-1 and CICO-2 results are examples of such strong results. And now we are going to add CICO-3 to the list of positive results. For these CICO studies, we normally probe for adoption, and that is whether a significant number of people and institutions start to use the currency. The theory is that if the currency survives and people use the currency, then the price of the currency will increase over time, and that would make it a good investment. So let me outline what we did with this study for CICO-3. This experimental design has 2 parts for the target, which is what the viewers are supposed to perceive. The first is known now, and that is a base surface that has unique topographical elements. The second part of the target is made up of additional elements that are added to the target after the end of the forecast period using CGI software. Now we have a video on our website on the Farsight forecasting method that was used for this study, and that video describes how this all works. All of the viewers describe the currently verifiable elements of the base surface for the target well, which in this case is an image of the barren surface of the moon. Moreover, all of the viewers had similar or corresponding numbers of elements added to that base surface, and those results tell us how the currency will perform over the forecast period according to the rules of our experimental design. There are no dissenting results among the 4 remote viewers employed in this investigation. In our studies, there are a possibility of up to 11 elements that can be placed in a target using CGI software 5 years in the future. And our remote viewers are describing what the target looks like in 5 years after it is assembled with CGI software. Now, the rules of how those elements are employed in the target creation process exist now, and those rules are tied to how the currency performs during the forecast period. So when our viewers describe what the target looks like in the future, we know how the currency performs. For CICO-3, our viewers describe the future target as having between 5 and 7 additional elements out of 11 possible elements that are added to the base target. Now, those are a lot of added elements. Normally, targets which have 3 or 4 added elements are good indicators of positive growth. So 5 to 7 elements is quite strong. Finally, we analyze the types of activity that the viewers describe for the CICO targets. The types of activity have positive or negative meanings, and they also indicate the strength and rapidness of the movements involved with the currency. In all of our sessions for this CICO, there were no negative indicators with activity, and most activity was minimal. The absence of negative or destructive activity is a good sign. Let me give you a numerical comparison. If we average the number of elements perceived by each viewer and divide that by the total possible elements for a target, we get the proportion of total possible elements that a viewer perceives. Then we can average that proportion across all viewers to get the overall index for the currency that ranges from 0 to 1. An index number of 1 would mean that the viewers perceived every possible element that could be used in the forecast, and that means that a currency would be very popular and adopted by a significant community. An index number near 0 would indicate the opposite, which is that the viewers perceived no additional elements over and above the base surface, which would mean that the currency would be expected to perform badly in terms of adoption. For our CICO-1 currency, that index number is 0.66. For our CICO-2 currency, the index number is 0.725. Now, for our CICO-3 currency, the index number is 0.575. You should think of these index numbers not as fixed, but rather as estimates drawn from a sample of remote viewing sessions. So, our remote viewing results are strong for the CICO-3 currency. This does not guarantee that the currency will perform well over the next 5 years, but given that we now have a good number of remote viewing sessions done by very experienced remote viewers that all indicate the currency's future performance is strong, this indicates that the future timelines for this currency are in general very positive. One last point. While this currency is not expensive, it is also not a penny currency, where the current price is just a few cents. If this currency is going to perform as well as we think it will perform, it is best to purchase the currency as early as possible. Waiting until it is expensive defeats the purpose of the entire experiment. Moreover, our advice is to keep the currency for the full forecast period, or at least until you see a substantial return in your investment. This is not day trading where you buy in the morning and sell in the afternoon, and the exact timing of the upward and downward movements need to be known down to the hour or minute. Remind yourself that this is a 5-year forecast. Be ready, and then wait calmly until the upward movement happens. And remember our disclaimer. No one at Farsight is a licensed financial advisor. We are practitioners of remote viewing, and we are using remote viewing to explore new realms, including financial forecasts. So anything that anyone at Farsight does that relates to using remote viewing to predict financial or economic outcomes of any type, including the selling prices of cryptocurrencies, stocks, commodities, or anything else, is done for entertainment and educational purposes only. Everyone doing investments are doing so at their own risk. Nonetheless, these efforts are truly interesting on a grand scale, and I personally believe that after we do this for a while, it will be hard for anyone to ignore the reality of remote viewing. As I've said in the past, may you follow your own intuitions, make wise investment decisions, and become rich. Thank you for supporting our efforts at Farsight. Together, we will change the world for the better. I am Courtney Brown, Director of Farsight.